Hi guys, if you're a man and you're watching this, maybe you're one of our subscribers, or you're coming across this now and you're a man and you've got gut issues. Maybe you've been diagnosed already with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, or you're not yet sure. Maybe you're self-diagnosed. Maybe you've got symptoms such as diarrhea, maybe constipation, bloating, really bad stomach, gurgling, maybe feeling nauseous. It's affecting things like your sleep, your energy. Well, this is going to be for you. What I'm going to do today is dive in to a number of questions that have been asked to us. If you go back to some of our previous videos and our podcast, Beyond Bathroom Blues, we ask, you've got the options all the time as our community to ask me, and I'll mention who I am, talk about who I am in a minute if you're new to the channel, or my wife and business partner, Charlie Jean. And any questions around your IBS, management, symptom control, etc., that we can consider for our podcast, for this YouTube channel, so that we can create content that's not just from us, but it's about you. Because at the end of the day, you matter, and it's about getting you from where you are now on your journey with IBS management and what we like to call men's IBS mastery. So you get that full control, fully get your symptoms as much as possible. In most cases, all of them, like mine, under control, so you can live a better life, so you can live a more fulfilling life for yourself, your family, your business, if you've got a business or you work, and just enjoy it. We're only here once, yeah? No matter what you believe in, we are only here one time, and we're here for a good time, not a long time. I'll say, so before we dive in, then I've got a number of questions, about 3 or 4 questions. I've got a bonus one as well, so stick around to the end, which I think is going to be really, really helpful for you if you're that man that I mentioned before with IBS, you've got concerns, and there's things here, questions that you're probably thinking yourself, but maybe too embarrassed to ask out publicly, because IBS it's a bit of a taboo subject, isn't it? We don't like to, especially men, we don't like to get out there and discuss things. It's difficult for men to go even to the doctors and to discuss it with a health professional. I know that because I was that man in 2003, 2004, after I came back from a tour of Iraq after fighting in the second Gulf War. More on that in a second. So let's dive in. So a number of questions. Before we get started, why listen to me? Who am I? So some random Yorkshireman talking about IBS. So my name is Glenn Cooke-Winchurch, as I mentioned before, alluded to before. This channel, there's a picture of me and my wife, and she's my business partner now, Charlie Jean. And we help men with IBS. That is it, the bottom line. Now, personally, I've lived through IBS from contracting it after a tour of Iraq in 2003. I was fine before then, from being a kid all the way till then. I contracted that due to, I believe, looking back, a severe condition of diarrhea and vomiting. I was taking lots of medications out there issued by the army, nerve agent tablets, all kinds of rubbish, injections, anthrax injections, and I think it messed up my entire system, obviously, my microbiome, loads of jazz. And I also experienced a little bit of trauma out there through seeing things, witnessing things, and experiencing stuff that was pretty grim. And I've mentioned that in other podcasts in my book, so I won't bore you with that today. I regained full control. Now, the point is, I went 10 years without doing anything about it, just putting up with it. And I missed time with my kids. I've got 3 children, they're grown up now. And I've got 4 kids, but 3 to my previous marriage, they're all grown up. And I missed out on so many opportunities, guys, so many opportunities. It is not worth waiting around and getting help, but we'll cover that in a second. We'll dive into that later. But I pretty much used a structured, scientifically based and proven process that my wife helped me with at the time. At that time, she was a registered dietitian with the NHS. She helped me with her blueprint that she came up with to get me from being stuck to unstuck in about 4 to 6 weeks. That's all it took, which I know that might sound unbelievable if you've got IBS and you've listened to loads of rubbish online saying there's no cure or there isn't a cure, but saying you can never fully manage it and you've got to put up with it and live life and it's rubbish and that's how it is. Don't listen to any of that. I'm telling you now, do not listen to any of that, because it'll pollute your mind, and what you think is what you get. And it's rubbish. It is complete garbage. I can say that myself from experience, and I can say that because of the thousands, not 10 or 20 or maybe 100, thousands of men and women in the past that my wife has helped transform their lives. So that's pretty much it. Why listen to me? Being there, wore the t-shirt. I've been through all the horrors, the hells of having accidents and you name it. And at the time as well, I was in the army, going through a military career. I ended up, thankfully, progressing to the highest rank. And we'll come on to that in a second as well, with some random questions that I got asked. Right, so let's dive straight in. So I've lived it, I've solved it alongside CJ. We help men. We help you. If you're a man with IBS, with gut issues, as I've said before, I'm here to help you in one way, shape or another. Listen, you might not ever be one of our clients. You might never, ever work with us one-on-one and pay, tens of thousands towards our personal one-on-one working and coaching and consulting, but it doesn't matter. This is our way of giving to the community, to the wider community of men, to help those out as well. Right, let's dive in. So questions. Obviously, I'm not going to read out real genuine names because it's health and obviously data protection and all that sort of stuff. So I'll make a few names up. So the names are made up for obvious reasons. But if you're watching this and you've emailed in or you've messaged in, you'll notice you. Maybe a couple of people have asked the same thing. And there has been a number of occasions where the same question keeps popping up. So I want to get that answered now. I want to get that to help you today to move forward. Happy with that? Right, so Nick, if you're out there, how do I know it's really IBS and not more serious? Well, first of all, that's a really good question. It is a really good question. And this is where getting a proper test is not only important, I would argue is critical. And in some cases, your life depends on it. And as I say that, I don't say that lightly. I don't say that where, you think, oh, that's a big statement. Your life depends on getting a diagnosis for IBS. IBS isn't dangerous, and it's not. It's not, is it? It's a relatively safe, as you will, condition in essence. But where I say it could be more serious is if it's anything else. Now, if you haven't been for a diagnosis, and even if you have been for a diagnosis and it was years and years and years ago, and you're experiencing strange conditions, bloating, maybe your stomach's hurting, maybe you've got pains down there, maybe you are passing blood, there's maybe some bleeding, dark, bright, a mixture of both. Maybe there's dark tarry stools, maybe there's, do you see what I mean? So there could be loads of different conditions, and a lot of these symptoms that you might be experiencing, they overlap. And I'm not a doctor, so I just want to dive in there. I am not a medical doctor, so I'm not offering medical advice. I'm just giving you common sense of based on the stuff that is out there publicly on the NHS, if you're in the UK, in America, on proper medical websites. If you are experiencing these conditions, or these symptoms, should I say, it could be bowel cancer, colon cancer. It might not be. Chances are it's not. So don't start panicking and going, oh, I'm trying to do a scare tactic. I'm not. But this is what I mean about having a proper diagnosis is critical, because you don't know what it could be. And if you've got kids and you've got a family and people that care about you and you care about them, do you not think it's really important and respectful for them that you go and get sorted out now, rather than waiting and I'll do it tomorrow? Tomorrow never comes. And if the worst happens, and listen, it probably won't to you, but there it has happened. There's chats in these YouTube videos that we've been creating, and I've been on other people's channels and added valuable comments to, and I've seen men saying they did exactly that they waited, they just self-diagnosed, they tried tackling it as IBS, they waited. 2 years later, they eventually started getting more severe symptoms, bleeding, went to the doctors, and it ended up being bowel cancer. And in some circumstances, and I know one close to my heart, a former soldier that I knew in my old unit, who's no longer with us, married, children, they would have grown up by now, and died in, I think he was early 50s. Not worth it. Not worth it. So that's that one. So going back to that question again, how do I know it's really IBS? Well, the reason, the way you can find out and get clarity and become crystal clear on whether it is IBS and not anything more serious, and that it's not inflammatory bowel disease, and there's a number of them, and that you haven't got anything like celiac disease or Crohn's and colitis, you need to go and get a proper diagnosis, not self-diagnosis, not some flipping microbiome testing kit that you bought online that is a complete waste of money and time for inaccuracies. And again, if you're watching this and you're new to the channel, subscribe and keep the alert button switched on, because this week and certainly into next week, there's a video, a deep dive that CJ, Charlie Jean, wife and business partner, she's currently sat in her office at the moment editing it, and it's going to be getting put out here for you so you can explore the up-to-date evidence and science behind microbiome testing. So that's going to be a game changer for you, and it'll give you that you can use that then to make a more intelligent, informed decision. But going back to that, how do you know it's really IBS? Go and get tested by a medical doctor or a GP if you're in the UK, whether you get your bloods tested. Go in there and tell them your symptoms. Tell them what you're experiencing. If you've had a test, if you've been diagnosed in the past historically, years and years and years ago, and you've been trying loads of stuff to tackle it and it's not working, maybe you need to go in for an MOT. It's an MOT if you're from another country watching this. It's a car. Every year in the UK, you've got to have an MOT done on your car to make sure it's safe. Seat belts checked and tyres and stuff. So as a man, we go and get that check. So it might be worth going for another test. Now, the reason I share that, and I'll come on to this, I was going to go into it further. My own story. So I had IBS. I've had IBS mastery and fully managed my symptoms for donkey's years since about 2013. But in about I'm going back a couple of years, 2026 now. So 2024, I think it was 2024. I tell you what, it was the time when Tom Cruise's film came out, and the Dead Reckoning, not the final one, the first one to them two. And I went to the cinema to IMAX with a brother-in-law to watch it. And at that stage, during that time, and just before going to watch that at the cinema, I started getting symptoms again. And I thought, what's going on here? I was getting bloating. My stomach was hurting. And even I get that heartburn. And I don't know, just a weird feeling in here, on and off. So it wasn't persistent. And then I went to the toilet, and I'm sharing this with you. If you're watching this, man, woman, it's a men's channel, but if you watch this as a woman, it doesn't matter. And I went to the toilet, and I was passing, there was blood. Dark, smelly, it absolutely stunk. And there was dark, tarry stools, blood. And I was like, Clearly, I went into flap mode, because as you know, like as you could probably relate to, if that starts to happen, knowing what you know now, if you didn't know, that it could be what I said before, I'm starting, as we all do, we're all like hypochondriacs, aren't we? I've got the worst thing, it's the worst outcome. So I ran downstairs, obviously cleaned myself up, and I shared it with my wife, I said, CJ, this is what's just happened. She's like, you know what to do, don't you? I said, yeah, get to doctors ASAP. And I didn't hang around, guys. I've got 4 kids. I've got a family. I've got a business. I've got people to help, people to serve. So who would I be to, not practice what I preach about mastery and about looking after yourself? So I booked that in and I went and got tested. And I was waiting on the edge of my seat. I was on the edge of my seat anyway, watching Tom Cruise dive around and sprint around everywhere in Mission Impossible. But I was even more on the edge of my seat, hanging off by my teeth, because of what I've just said there, because I was waiting for them test results to come in from the doctors. I had a blood test and everything. The test came back, and again, this is why I'm reinforcing, if you get any strange symptoms and you've had I've been tested for IBS years ago, and then this started happening. Okay, I went and got retested, and they specifically looked, obviously with those symptoms, they specifically checked for cancer and they checked for other bits and pieces. They couldn't find it, thankfully. The doctor phoned me. I ran out of the cinema because my phone was going off. Number withheld. I knew it was a doctor. And she said, look, the good news is you have not got anything horrible. Weight off shoulders. what we now need to do is, would you be opposed to going for an endoscopy and a colonoscopy? No, I'm all in. All in. I'll do anything to find out what's going on. And it ended up being, so I had both of them. So I had the, the camera down there and the camera from behind as well. Listen, guys, don't be scared. I'd be more scared of getting something and then having to tell my kids that, by the way, I'm not going to be here in 3 years' time or 6 months' time because I'm too stubborn and I haven't got the courage to go and get tested properly. That's my own mindset. A bit of resilience there. Hopefully pass it on if you are worried or maybe feeling embarrassed. Just go and get it done. Stop overthinking it and get it done. If not for you, but for other people. And it came back. I had an upper tract infection. There's a name for it. And it was like top of the stomach infection, and it was causing all that. So I was prescribed antibiotics and some other tablets. I forget the name of them, and it doesn't matter because I don't want to sit here and start talking about prescription drugs. But I had to take a lot of strong drugs, like 2 different types, for ages, for a couple of months. And it cleared it up. And since then, I've been fine. Okay, now the reason I share that with you as well is because I can't stress to you the importance of having not just a diagnosis, guys, but managing your symptoms fully and having IBS mastery. Because if I didn't have IBS mastery, perhaps then I wouldn't have picked up on different symptoms happening. Does that make sense? So if I put that into another way, because I've got IBS mastery, I know my triggers, and I'll come on to some of them in a minute that they were different because it was food initially, and then years down the line, it ended up being psychological, and I'll share them in a second. But if I didn't have my IBS dialed in all the time, and because I did have it dialed in all the time, I was able to notice weird symptoms happening again. And I was thinking, where are these coming from? I need to go to doctors again. Obviously with the blood, but if the bleeding wasn't there, I could have still gone to doctors again because symptoms are happening and they shouldn't be. Does that make sense? So look after yourself. So how do you know, circling all the way back to that question of, hopefully I've answered that and done a bit of a deep dive to help you out. How do I know it's really IBS and nothing more serious? You go and get checked. That's the bottom line. You go and get checked and you have the tests done fully and correctly by a registered health professional, a medical doctor, general practitioner at your doctor's, not a naturopathic doctor, not a nutritionist, not any flipping microbiome test, hair test, breath test, flipping fart test. You go and get sorted out properly. Otherwise, something could happen more serious down the line. Now, I'm saying that I might sound a little bit abrupt when I say that's because I care. I really do, because I've read too many comments in YouTube videos on our own channel and had emails, and as I shared with you before in the military, of people that things have took a turn for the worse. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want it to happen to you at all and to your family. So go get sorted out. Nick, if you're out there listening to this, that is for you, but obviously the wider audience as well. Cool. Next, Stefan. Why do my symptoms constantly seem like they're flaring up randomly, even though I'm doing everything right? It's a good question, and it's difficult to answer specifically for you, tailored to you, because when you say that you are doing everything correctly, what does that mean? And are you doing everything correctly? And again, I don't say that to be mean, but are you, what have you done in the past? Have you been to see a health professional? Have you got the diagnosis that I mentioned before? Have you then worked with another health professional subsequently from getting the diagnosis, such as a registered dietitian? Do you know what I mean? So have you read the right books? Have you listened to the right podcasts and putting the correct information in place to move forward as a man with IBS? I'm going to guess, and again, I say this not to be mean, but just guessing that there's going to be a no somewhere along the lines there. So you've got to plug that in. And even if you are, listen, it's not just food. And as another question, we're going to come on to about stress in a minute. It's not just food. A lot of men think it's food. So I'm going to avoid onions and garlic and FODMAPs and all this different stuff. And you need to get help with that. So that's the first part. And that is part of the management process. I'm not saying eliminate that. Don't bother with that. You absolutely need to do that. You'd be crazy not to, because remember, there's what's going on upside in your mind. and there's also in your stomach. So, yeah. So why do they happen randomly? Well, there's other triggers, isn't there? Stress. Stefan, are you stressed out? What's happening at work? Have you been fired lately? Are you unemployed and money is an issue and it's causing stress, and maybe it's causing arguments at home with you and your partner? Is it that your partner split up with you because of IBS? I've had that experience before in terms of clients that we've worked with where that's happened to them, where I think back to a call a couple of years ago now with a man, a really nice chap. His brother was in the Royal Navy. Amazing conversation we had, and it was devastating to hear his story about his ex-wife or girlfriend, ex-missus, that she used to belittle him because of his IBS symptoms. Take the piss. How bad is that? Yeah, and I used to get that as well from my ex-wife. That's one of the reasons of many. She's an ex-wife. She used to take the piss. That's not somebody that loves you and cares about you, is it? So it's good riddance. Dodged a bullet. But in terms of other things that are going on there, he shared with me that she was then sleeping with his best friend behind his back because he wasn't as active or as, in her mind, as what he was when he first met her because of this IBS bubble that he was in. So she was sneaking around rather with his best friend. And his suspicions were confirmed, and then she left him for him, and nightmare. Imagine that on top of everything else. Trying to sort your IBS out and then all that happens. 10x. Right, but that's just, again, is that, going back to the question. So I keep circling back to the question so we stay focused on it. Why do flare-ups or symptoms flare up randomly? It's a difficult one to answer specifically for you, Stefan, because everybody's different. It depends what you've done and what you're doing currently, and also what you're experiencing. Do you see what I mean? This is like when we work with clients. I say we, the royal we, when CJ works with clients, for example, if she's working with somebody one-on-one through her WhatsApp, then these are the things that she'll be focusing on. It's not just food. It's loads of different stuff, loads of different things. It's that overall view. And yeah, so there is other triggers at hand. You could be, you might have had help with food in the past. For example, it may be that you've gone and seen a dietitian and you've done the low FODMAP process and you have identified your triggers, you've reintroduced your foods, you are squared away food-wise, you are all over it. Maybe you don't even drink alcohol, so that's not causing any issues, or you're sorted out in the what goes in your mouth aspect. But all of a sudden symptoms are flaring up randomly. What's that about? Because it goes back to what I said before, circling back to the stress. Have you got any trauma? Have you got PTSD like I had from Iraq and Kosovo? Have you got any of that going on and that ain't being sorted out? Because if that ain't being sorted out, that's going to have an effect. Speaking from experience from myself, lived through that as well, and other people that I've spoke to. So just bear that in mind. And if you need to get that sorted out, that will have an effect, a positive effect with your IBS management. Do you see what I mean? Everybody thinks it's food, don't they? Everybody's like, oh, do this, eat this, take this supplement, take that supplement. Really? So what about all the veterans out there that have been to Iraq and Afghanistan and they've got post-traumatic stress disorder, whether it's been diagnosed or not? And so many veterans have got IBS. Funny that. Do you know what I mean? Like myself. And we'll come on to the question in a minute from David with his IBS. So just bear that in mind. That's why that's just something to think about if you're watching this as well. Why are you getting symptoms flaring up randomly? What is the solution then? It's all right, Glenn, you're coming up with all these examples and that's brilliant, but what is the solution? Well, the solution, in my mind and from my experience and with the people that we help, is diagnosis. And as soon as you've got that and you know what it is, go and get the correct management from the best person that you can find, or best people. Do you know what I mean? Because it's going to be the safest option. It's going to be the fastest option. If you pay that premium price and you're willing to put the work in, you're going to get the best outcome, which is what we, I guess, if you want to talk about guarantees, but that's what we do with our clients, just as an example. Next one. This one's This one made me chuckle, but not. The reason it made me chuckle is because I get these questions and they're all about IBS, or about maybe lifestyle changes and things. And this one was different. David, a former US Marine, also served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and a fellow IBS sufferer. Well, first of all, David, if you're watching this, thank you for your service. You thanked me for my service, but thank you for your service from veteran to veteran. I worked with you guys, maybe not you specifically, in Iraq, or Iraq, as you guys call it, in 2003 for the Second Gulf War. And I bumped into, the American Army, worked with the American Army closely and distantly, as you will, throughout different tours as well. And you're absolutely brilliant. I think, I just want to say that now to anybody that's watching this that's a US veteran. You guys are fantastic. What an amazing allied forces that we have. We should be grateful for each other, because I think we complement each other very well on operations, the US and the UK, all the way back from Second World War, and beyond, and different conflicts. So yeah, thank you for your service. Now, what was funny about this question is you're asking me nothing about IBS. What tours and medals have I got? Because I've mentioned on these videos, there's pictures of me on some of the thumbnails where I've got my kit on. Well, first of all, both of me and Charlie Jean are veterans. CJ did 11 years, just short over 11 years. And I did a full, so not like a half career, got out to become obviously ultimately a registered dietitian, sports nutritionist, work with, she was a chef before, combat chef, worked with in the past the elite special air service, SAS, did 3 years, I think, with them, 2 to 3 years. So has done quite a lot of stuff with some very important organizations, but then left the army because just to follow her passion with what she's doing now, really, ultimately. CJ, in terms of hers, if you can see there, so we've got in that order there, so Northern Ireland medal, which she did Northern Ireland tour probably for 6 months. And then the other one is a Golden Jubilee. That's the Golden Jubilee is what I've got one as well. Basically the Queen when she was alive, bless her, when she was in reign, in power for a said period of time, they have jubilees. If you're from another country, that just explain. And if you're a serving member of the forces at that time, you get a medal. So it's a kind of a free medal. It's not a tour. The other medal that Charlie Jean missed out on, which should be on there, I believe, but unfortunately, is Iraq. She was in Iraq, but it was cut very short due to, unfortunately, and sadly, she lost her grandfather at the time. Again, 2003 Iraq, the one that I was in. We didn't know each other at the time. We were separate places. And what's even more tragic about that, other than that, losing a granddad, is there was a sandstorm. They tried getting her back in time to be at his bedside, to be with him and talk to him before he passed away. But unfortunately, due to a horrific sandstorm in Iraq, everything was grounded and she couldn't get back in time. But then she did get a Hercules aeroplane all to herself. That was how important they knew it was to get her back. Unfortunately, she didn't make it in time for her granddad to see him and say farewell to him. So it's quite a sad story there. But so there's a little bit about her. And then in terms of myself, again, this is not about me. I'm going to turn this around in a minute, David. So there are mine. I've served 23 years as RSM. Again, I've got the Northern Ireland tour, Kosovo, which was former Yugoslavia, Iraq, the Golden Jubilee, and I think it's platinum, also platinum Jubilee medal, 2 Jubilee medals for the Queen, and then the one at the end, which I'm quite proud of. So that one there is long service and good conduct. That's issued to people that do 15 years exemplary service, without getting into trouble, doing really well, performance, etc. 15 years or more, you get that medal, and you get a certificate, and it's framed and all that sort of stuff and presented to you, which is great. That's it in a nutshell. But listen, if there's a story behind those medals, for anybody watching this, it's discipline and consistency. And it's the same with IBS management or looking after yourself. Yeah, so it's not about me. I started just to show you, look at me and my medals. It's not. I am grateful for the journey that I've been on and where I am now, because ultimately it's made me the person I am today, that I can serve you, I can serve the wider community and help men with their mindset, with their performance, and obviously working with my wife with IBS. So that's it in a nutshell. The going back to your question, sorry, the context there, former US Marine, and you've done Iraq and Afghanistan, and you're a fellow IBS sufferer. I'm just curious, and I'd love for you, or if there's any other veterans watching this, to put in the comments, because we're all veterans, let's chat, because we can help people here, is how did your IBS start? Do you know, have you got any ideas? Like, I know, pretty sure like 99.9% that my IBS was directly or indirectly as a consequence from what I shared before in Iraq. So I had we had anthrax jabs, injections for the anthrax virus. So we had a couple of them, and that they were crazy. They made you have like weird dreams and not sleep properly and feel strange. So we had them. A biological pre-agent treatment set tablets, these huge antibiotic things. Again, that probably completely wrecked my microbiome and stomach lining. I constantly out there seem to have diarrhea and vomiting, D&V. At one point, I had to sleep in the corridor because I was literally just couldn't control myself through both ends. I know that sounds minging. And there was loads of lads like that. It wasn't because I was minging. I was always washing my hands and sanitizing. It's just how dirty it was. And I guess it was spreading like wildfire. And since that point moving forwards, and obviously I saw a few things out there that were pretty grim that I didn't deal with when I came back. I just pushed them to one side, pushed them down, suppressed them. And that later came out as PTSD. So I came back from Iraq, and all of a sudden I started getting diarrhea, bloating. It was mild at first, and all these weird symptoms, which eventually, years later, when I eventually got my ass kicked off CJ to go get a proper diagnosis, it was IBS, and then I got a grip of it in a short space of time. So that's why I say, if you put in a comment, if you're a veteran, is it the IBS that you believe is from tour? Similar to what I've shared there, I'd be curious to know and help you out, or just chat about it if needs be. Last one, and I'll let you go. Again, thanks for your time. Hopefully this has helped so far. If you're watching this, we're sharing it. We're a community of men. Join, subscribe. I'm not bothered about subscriptions for what, any kind of ad money or anything. I want a community where I can help. We can help each other, but I can help you. And listen, I'm not the expert with IBS, but the person in the other room who's editing a video right now is absolutely amazing at it. And I don't say that lightly, because I'm married to her. She's transformed my life. I wouldn't be where I am today with my IBS journey if it wasn't for her. And thousands of men out there, and there's tons of emails and all sorts of stuff that she's had, gifts sent to her and flowers bought for her in the past to thank her for changing their life. So you could have that same outcome, whether you work with us directly or you never work with us at all. Rather than going, as I say, all over the place and following the charlatans out there, there's false gurus. Listen, it's not just us. There's some good people out there. There is other good people out there and other experts, clearly. And if you're watching this as a fellow health professional, maybe you're one of them, and hats off to you, because it's the good health professionals out there, the ones that care, that are qualified and experienced, and they're doing the right thing and staying on track to help people, that are going to change the world for the right reasons, right? But we need to stick together and close ranks on all the idiots out there that just share fiction mixed with facts. And it's getting worse now with artificial intelligence, because they're using AI to sound that they know what they're on about, and they haven't got a clue. It'll all come out. Truth always comes out in the end, doesn't it, as the Bible states. So last one then is a question from, is it Simon or Simone? Again, can stress really cause symptoms? Can stress? And this is a really good question, isn't it? And the reason I wrote that down, there is a few more, but I want to save them for as next Q&A. We're going to try and do these at least once a month. So email in if you've got any questions. Well, before we answer this last one, if you've got any questions or you want me to chat about anything, get them stuck in the comments. If you don't mind sharing with the community your question, put it in the comments, and we'll consider that, and we'll get it out on another Q&A, especially if there's been a few people asking it. Or if you want to stay it more confidential, email me, Glenn, Glenn, Glenn at mensibsmastery.com. I will put that in the description after this when I start putting the thumbnail on there in the description. Okay, guys? So just Glenn mensibsmastery.com. Say, Glenn, great video, but I've got a question. Just go for it. You don't need to chat. You don't have to thank me. Just ask me a question. Share a little bit of context if you can. And the reason I say if you give me more context, it'll help me. But more importantly, the ones that CJ does, it'll really help her if you add a little bit more history, a little bit more context. So circling back to why do flare-ups, symptoms flare up randomly? Remember the one from Stefan? That was just one line, that in an email. Brilliant. It is brilliant because you email it in. It's awesome that you're asking these questions, but please, please, please put a little bit more bells and whistles around it. What do you mean by that? Just even if you just put down what are your challenges for IBS? What is one challenge that you want to overcome? What is one thing you want to know? But what's the context around that? So for example, in that one, you could have put things that you've tried up to now. Have you had a diagnosis? You put, I've had a diagnosis. I've tried maybe the low FODMAP diet. I've tried carnivore diet. I've tried blooming gluten-free, dairy-free. And this is what's happening. And we've got a little bit more to go off, a little bit more to talk about, which will help more people, help you and help more people. Last one. Can stress really cause symptoms? Yes, done. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for staying. I'm only joking. Right. Can stress. Now, hopefully, if you've been watching this up till now, you will appreciate and know that from what I've shared before about Iraq and veterans and PTSD and all that, you've picked up on a theme that it can absolutely have an effect on symptoms. And I'm going to share with you again, body armor off, and I'll share my experience with something with you that you might relate to, and it might help as well. And again, just using me as an example, not for nothing other than to help you move forward. So I mentioned before about going back to Iraq. I also did Kosovo. I showed you the medals there. So Iraq, that one there was Kosovo. Former Yugoslavia. Now, while I was in former Yugoslavia, I worked as assistant intelligence officer. So I was doing intel. And during that time of doing the intel, we were visiting mass graves, areas, schools where kids and teachers had been gunned down, and there was still evidence of that in the school. You know, if you gunfire and bullet holes and dried up blood and all sorts of carnage, and various other stuff that I've seen out there. A lot of bodies decomposing, loads of other stuff, without going into too much detail. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. It was horrible, and I had a few nightmares in Kosovo, sleepless nights, to process why they were doing that to each other, the Serbians and the Albanians, because I couldn't get my head around it. Even though I just couldn't get my head around it. And I still can't today. I can't get my head around how people, different cultures do that to each other. But here we are. Anyway, so I suppressed that, as you do as a young lad. That'd be me. Let's go drinking. Hey. And then that was, I think in 2000 we went there. And then in 2003, so a few years later, I'm out in Iraq. And then I'm seeing stuff out there. Young girl burning to death and covered in phosphorus and various other bits and pieces, and looking for bodies, and just rubbish stuff that you don't want to see. But again, you come back from there and you kind of have a bit of banter, a bit of laughing about it. Not that it's funny, but just a soldier's way of getting around it and getting on with things. And then you come back from there, hitting the drink hard, going out with the lads, drinking. And at that time, my relationship became, it was done. It was done. Looking back, my ex-wife. And roll forward, and again, I don't want to do a deep dive today on that, but roll forward. I share that story in our book that's coming out, Men's IBS Secrets, be out soon. Keep look out for that. And it's in various other podcasts and YouTube videos that I've shared. But in terms of that, I suppressed it, pushed it down, got rid of it. And I thought it was gone. And years later, it was coming out. And it was coming out in angry outbursts, not violent, just feeling irritated for no reason, in where I should be happy and enjoying the moment. I'm irritated, and I don't know why. This was in 2019 to 2020. And coincidentally, I was leaving the army then after 23 years, so that didn't help. Pardon me, massive change. And make sure you stay hydrated. Good for IBS as well. So I then went, again, practice what I preach, love self-mastery. I thought something's not right here. And also I was starting to have nightmares again about Iraq and some other bits and pieces. I thought something's not right here. I'm going to go see a psychologist. I'm going to pay for it out of my own money. I'm not going to burden the NHS. I'm going to go and pay for private. I'm going to find the best local, as close as possible psychologist that deals with trauma, because that's what I suspected it could be. And that's what somebody advised me to do. Go and see a woman called Dr. Sharon. Dr. Sharon, she was amazing, cross-skin and phenomenal. And I went there, and within first session, she said, we need to see each other more often, not for your money. I need a handful of sessions with you. She said, I suspect, but I need a few more sessions. There's trauma there. Really? Okay. And within 2 to 3 sessions, she pretty much diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder and complex PTSD as well, from some stuff from my childhood. Who'd have thought? And things from in the military and stuff that had happened to me along the way, with accidents as well and injuries and stuff. Crazy. So I then said, well, what's the next steps? I paid her, it's like £2,000-3,000 or dollars. Happy with that. It's an investment. Go and you need CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And I'll tell you what now, and I got that through the NHS, and I'm grateful, blessed and grateful for Mark, my therapist, and who absolutely knocked it out of the park for me and gave me loads of sessions, and it's helped me immensely. Not perfect, but helped me immensely. Now, the reason I share that with you is because during that time, my symptoms were getting worse again. Imagine that, having an IBS mastery in the army, going then being able to go up through the ranks, leaving the military as a former warrant officer class 1, regimental sergeant major, with all their medals and having a good career, managing to stay alive and not lose any limbs. And here I am now getting symptoms again. I'm like, what's going on? And then obviously rolling forward and speaking to gastroenterologists, gastros, and them having appointments with me and various bits and pieces. My food and drink was absolutely dialed in. I don't even drink alcohol. Dialed in. No symptoms from that. I was getting these symptoms again. Not really bad like in the past, but mild bloating and other symptoms. Sleep was being affected. And it was due to that. It was due to the psychological issues. Anything that's happening up there was affecting what was happening down there. So can stress affect and cause IBS? 100%. And that's not just, I'm saying that, I'm telling you that from experience, from what I've been told by experts in the field. I've had CBT, psychologist, but more importantly, in terms of the IBS experts, a gastroenterologist has told me that. Charlie Jean backs it up. So just think about that there, is what's going up there. Can stress cause symptoms? Yes. And it's not just stress as well. It could be trauma. It could be anxiety, depression. Things that are going up in your mind is affecting what's going up in your stomach, in a nutshell. So if you're watching this, again, it's a great question. Amazing. And this is why all these tests, like the breath test, the hair test, the microbiome test, and all the other jazz that's out there online, how are they going to give you a proper outcome when they don't know what's going on fully? Do you know what I mean? People are saying, "Oh, don't eat gluten." Brilliant. Don't even know you. They don't even know you. All these influencers on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, whatever. Don't do dairy. Dairy. Don't bother with dairy, and you'll be fine. Take these supplements. Have you seen these supplements? Take these. These will sort you out. Sort your IBS out. And listen, I say that sarcastically because it pisses me off, because more often than not, none of it works, and it doesn't help men. It just keeps them stuck. See it time and time and time again with men and women. And I've lost count of the amount of chat threads in IBS groups that I've been in, where I've been admin, moderator, group experts, where people, and I get it, they're stuck in this cycle, this like hamster wheel of trying all this different stuff and getting told all this shit. And they're still stuck in the world of symptoms. And I'm like, guys, it doesn't need to be that complicated. It doesn't need to be that. It's a simple process. It's not easy. It's not easy. Just like losing weight isn't easy. If you've been overweight or you're overweight and you're trying to lose weight, you'll know where I'm coming from. Losing that excess belly fat or more isn't easy. But listen, is it a simple process? Of course it is. It is a simple process for most people, isn't it? Calorie deficit, eat healthy food, eat less than probably what you're eating, midnight snacks and all that jazz. So it's eating having a decent intake of food and drink, and exercising regularly, and sleeping regularly, having good quality sleep. There's just 3 things. But my point being is, and then again, this isn't a deep dive on personal training or health in terms of losing weight, but the process is simple, but it's not easy. And it's the same with IBS mastery. The process to get IBS mastered, and I mean as best as you can, not everybody's going to get the same level of outcome. You're not sitting watching this, and I'm not going to tell you, and I would never lie to you at all anyway, and say you will master your IBS and get 100% symptom relief all the time, because that'll be a cure, and there isn't a cure. And you might not get the same outcome as me or Bob down the road or Jack or Stefan or David. Everybody's different, and you're all going to get potentially different levels of outcomes, if that makes sense. If you worked with us, we would never say to you, right, at the end of working with us, you'll be squared away forever, because you might not be. Do you know what I mean? You might have a death in the family. We've had that experience before with a client, death in the family. And then all of a sudden you're stressed out, you're upset, your whole world is falling apart and symptoms are coming back 10x. Well, it doesn't mean you can't master your IBS. It just means there's a blip there, big blip, obviously, that needs to be managed, that you need to be helped with. That's why community is key. Being in the community is massive. And anyway, so there we are. Guys, I hope that helps. And the last question, I don't want to miss it, is can I go back to normal? Luke, can I go back to normal? Can I go back to normal? It depends what normal was for you. Everybody's different. What was normal? I believe in terms of you can go beyond normal. What was normal? In terms of not having symptoms, the answer is no. You can never be cured from IBS. So in that respect, the answer is no. Again, being totally open with you, the answer is no. You can't cure IBS if that's what you mean. If you don't mean that, just to clear that bit up, but if you just mean going back to normal and I guess managing your symptoms and feeling okay and having symptom control and being able to get on with your life, your career, your fathering, marriage, whatever that looks like, then the answer is absolutely for most people, for most men, but there's a lot of variables. Like, are you willing to put the work in? Are you committed to getting that outcome of becoming quote unquote normal? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? Most men aren't with anything, let alone IBS management. Whether it's wealth, getting fit, strong, having an amazing marriage. It's sad. A lot of guys out there are not willing to do what it takes to get the best outcome. And none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have blips in life. I do. You do. If you're watching this, we all do. We've all got stories of ups and downs. But in terms of going back to mastering, I use the word mastery because that's the biggest and best outcome that I foresee from me and clients, etc. is IBS mastery. And what we mean by that is you are in control. That's in a nutshell. You are in control of your symptoms most of the time. And I say most of the time because you can't control the uncontrollables. Do you know what I mean? So something might happen outside of your control that causes symptoms. We've mentioned a few things before. But again, with good habits in place and managements in place and systems, you'll be able to get over that road hump quickly and move on and getting back to control. So that's helpful. You can go beyond normal. I look back in my life and I think, and this is going to sound weird to some people, and in some cases, and I mean no disrespect for any men watching this that are really struggling and suffering and in a dark hole like I was once. I mean no disrespect, but I believe for me personally, I'm not speaking for anyone else. Having and contracting irritable bowel syndrome in Iraq in 2003 and beyond it was a gift. It was the best thing that could have happened. One of many best. I've had loads of good things happen to me. I'm not saying the best thing. The best thing that's happened to me is my little girl who's at school at the minute. She's 9, and the person that sat in that office editing a video. So there's other, my other kids and stuff. So there's other things that were better than IBS. But do you know what I mean? It's been a gift. At the time, I never realised for years, over a decade, until probably 5-6 years ago, I would have never known that IBS was going to be a gift from God. And I believe now it was destined to have that, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, helping you, doing these videos, creating these podcasts, writing a book, I've wrote a book already, IBS Inversion, for those that have purchased that on Amazon, to help people get unstuck that feel that they can't, there's no way out. And, there's other stuff that I've done. I mean, if it hadn't been for this, I wouldn't have written that. I wouldn't have written it, would I? Wouldn't have done it. And that's helped loads of people. Looking at the reviews and stuff, I'm blessed that has helped loads of people get unstuck. It's just as an example. I'm not saying that to sell it or anything. It's just as an example. So you can go beyond normal, but it's focusing on getting it sorted out, getting it managed. And also it allows me, again, going off my own example, to focus on healthy eating. Because of IBS, I've been more focused on what I eat, what I put in my mouth. Now, it also, to add to that, I mean, I guess for me uniquely, like a lot of guys watching this, I love fitness, love it. I've been eating and breathing fitness since I can remember. I think since I was crawling. Well, that's fitness, isn't it? Crawling on the floor as a baby. So since then, I've been, I don't do as much of it as I used to do, or as hard as I used to do, due to injuries from the army and issues that I've had along the way. But I still have that can-do attitude. But in terms of running, CrossFit, high rocks, style training, bodybuilding, swimming, cycling, love it, walking, love it. Dog walking, going out adventuring, it's all good. It's all good. But having IBS mastery allows me to do all of that stuff. Not only just a little bit, but beyond. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully that helps. So don't think of just going back to normal, thinking of going beyond normal, getting it sorted out and going beyond and having a better life than what you had before. Hopefully that helps. Guys, if that's everything, if you've got any questions, I'll put a thing in the description straight after this. I'll write a quick email address that you can put in. It's Glenn, Glen, it's Glenn with 2 N's, not 1 N, at mensibsmastery.com. Great questions. Love them. Keep coming in. Love that we're building, that we're coming together as a community of men with IBS. And I'm really, really proud of every one of you. I don't say that to be cheesy, for reaching out. I'm proud of you. You've got the courage, and it is courage. And I'm speaking to you as a former RSM in the British Army who reached the highest rank. I'm speaking to you as an athlete, as an elite performer, and as an entrepreneur. I'm speaking to you as a high-performing guy with resilience, that you're doing the right thing. Speaking out is one of the single strongest things you can do, is getting help, whether it's from expert coaching, mentoring, consultations, whether it's in your health, your family, your business, your kids, all aspects is reaching out and getting help. Watching this, gaining all the wisdom, reading the books, listening to the podcasts, and more importantly, putting things into practice to see what works. And even if it doesn't work, at least you found something that hasn't worked, and you can move on to the next thing to see if it does work. Remember, in life, and it's a quote, I love it. I think I heard it on the film with Will Smith, the tennis film, with Serena Williams in there and her sister, is that you can only succeed in life. You can't fail. You cannot fail unless you quit. You either succeed or you learn. Love it. I think it was from there, and I've heard it quoted in books as well. So there is no failing with IBS. It's a long journey for some people. It took me more than 10 years. It might take you more longer or shorter, hopefully shorter. It's a long journey, but you cannot fail unless you sack it and just think, bugger it, I'm just going to quit and get on with it and let IBS dominate my life and just let it suck and just start like a dark cloud and just ruin everything, because it does. It flipping does. And just remember, you might have tried what feels like everything. You might have tried what feels like 1,000 million gazillion things. And I've mentioned shed loads in there. You might have tried stuff, but you've found things that haven't worked. You have yet to find the thing that works. Follow us for more, and take care. I wish you nothing but the best. God bless. Take care.